Okay, I make that 6 o'clock, so I'm going to start this evening's meeting. We haven't got a lot on the agenda, but I do like to start these on time because they are filmed as well. So our meetings are filmed. If there's anyone in this room that doesn't want to be filmed, if you can let one of the officers know, and we'll try and make sure that you're not on part of that. But welcome to Bursledon, Hamble-le-Rice and Hound-le-Rice Committee. I'll do a couple of introductions before we go. I'm Tonya Craig. I represent Bursledon and I'm chair of this local area committee. And if I start nearest yourself on the opposite side, Jane Rich, she's one of the councillors that also represents Bursledon. We have Becky Wiseman, who's absolutely fabulous. Councillor Malcolm Cross, Liz Jarvis, Adam Manning, who all represent Hamble and Netley, and on the end nearest the screen is Steve Holes, who's also Bursledon. This side with me we have planners Alex Stone and Liz, I can never remember your surname, Harrison, thank you very much. To my left we have Ross McLean, who's area coordinator, my right hand man, Catherine Collins from Democratic, and Helen Devereux, who's from our legal. So they will be helping us should we need their help this evening. We will have presentations on the planning as and when it goes through. Should anyone need the toilets, they're out the back doors and across the hall. And we're not expecting any fire alarms. So if a fire alarm goes off, we have doors here, and if you came in the main door at the front. Okay, apologies, we don't have any because everybody is here this evening. Any members' declarations of interest? No, if something comes up as the meeting progresses, if you just let me know, that'd be brilliant. Okay, public participation, and we have Maureen. Maureen, would you like to come to the front?
I'd just like to know, when is Poppy Place going to get its road sign? That's the British Legion site, the old site. The residents there still haven't got a nameplate up to say who they are. Poppy Place. It's 100 Station Road.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
I know there was a bit of dispute with the developer over what his shenanigans at the back.
We will get Ross and Becky to chase that, Maureen, because I thought they had one. I know there was a dispute, but it shouldn't happen anyway, because there's 4 or 5 at the back and 1 at the front. So, yeah, they should have a nameplate. So we'll get that one chased and we'll come back to you on that one. Any other public participation? Things not on the agenda? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have minutes of the previous meeting. Those have been circulated. Steve.
Chair, if I may just ask a question. Has there been a response from Hampshire County Council regarding the crossing and local area around the crossing at Lowford?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, Steve, there's been a response from Mandy Ware at Hampshire County Council, who is in the Safer Road traffic team. I'll read out the responses I only received yesterday. The site has been reviewed and we are considering signing changes around the site, in particular locations of the school warning signs and flashing amber lights. Conversion of the zebra crossing to a signal control crossing has been considered, but is not feasible due to the close proximity of private vehicular accesses. Upgraded Belisha beacons are also being considered for the site. So that's the update at the moment. If there's anything you want me to go back to Mandy at Hampshire for specifically, then you can drop me an email or let me know and I can forward that up again. Yeah. I'll forward it to all. Yep.
Did you say it was private?
It says here, due to the close proximity of private vehicular access.
I'm not sure that there are any. Yeah, there isn't any private ones. There's the one for the community centre and the road.
Yep.
Yeah, that's quite a distance away from the actual crossing. We'll have a look at that email and go back with some more questions on that, because I think that's a very vague and weak excuse. Thanks, Steve. Ross will forward that email to us later, and then we can ask some more questions on that one. Okay, so everybody else happy with the minutes? Yep, that proposer, Malcolm, to accept them, and a seconder from Adam. So all those in favour of accepting the minutes? That's everyone except Jane. You're abstaining because you weren't here? Yeah, thanks, Jane. Okay, Chair's announcements. I don't usually have any, and although I haven't got anything prepared, this is the last meeting before elections in May. And I wanted to put my thanks on record to both Adam and Jane, who are standing down. Quite sad to lose you both. I want to thank you for all your help, energy, your compassion with people, your passion on everything you do. It's been absolutely brilliant. And, you know, sad loss, really. But wish you well. I know that yours has taken off with your job. But thanks for everything that you've done. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to add my thanks, especially to Jane, who's been a ward colleague for a number of years now, and we are going to miss you, Jane, and we understand why you want to stand down at this point, and we're still here for you. And as for Adam, I haven't known Adam quite as long, but he's been a great colleague, and I seconded his nomination for mayor last year, and I know he's been an excellent mayor for us this year. And any rumours that he and his wife are going to go down to the fancy dress shop in May and hire a dress uniform for mayors and mayoresses so that they can have dinner in the appropriate manner to which they've become accustomed is purely rumour at this point. Thank you.
I don't believe it's rumour for 1 minute, actually, Steve. Jane.
Excuse me. I'd like to say thank you to everybody that I have met. All the officers have been fabulous over many years, and I've been well welcomed and looked after. I thank my colleagues that have supported things that I've brought to this council. I've got to say this is a team, and everybody has worked together. And the many and brilliant things that everybody's done, you can't imagine all the hard work that goes in, even over the smallest thing. So I'd like to thank everybody for all their support through everything and the help. And good luck in the future, and good luck to Adam. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I want to echo Councillor Rich's words. Jane's very eloquent, and I really just want to endorse everything that she said. Thank you to everybody. I've adored my time being a councillor. I love our area, and it's been a privilege and honour to be part of this committee and to work as a councillor to do our very best for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam and Jane, and I do wish you all very best moving forward. I'm going to miss our little sessions out though, because Adam was nicknamed the puppy, with his enthusiasm and just the way he runs around, so enthusiastic and energetic. So I will miss election time with that, but I wish you well, and hopefully we may see you again in the future. Okay, moving on to local area managers report. Ross, any updates?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll just run through the recommendations and then we can go into discussion and debate. So there is 6 recommendations in total from my report. The first one recommends to the LAC to approve the allocation of £103,000, £103,359 in public art development contributions to the Collerant Public Art Project. The second one is to approve the allocation of £1,730 to install 4 dual-use bins, 3 of those going into the Latitude estate and 1 at the bottom of Hungerford Close to the bridge by the stream. And the third one is to note there's a change in allocations to the developer contributions. Just to highlight that doesn't mean anything's changed in terms of the amount, but just to highlight we're using a different contribution for some of the play areas we're installing. Also to approve the allocation of £15,000 from reserves to fund the spring clean event at 3 locations this time, after the success of last year's one. So Bursledon, Hamble and Hound will all have their own spring clean event in April time, and maybe one in May. And then to approve the local area action plan, which is as Appendix 1. And then finally to note the achievements from the local area that you guys have supported, and the work's been done in those bits. So I'll just go on to the local area action plan if you're happy with that, Chair. Obviously there's key priorities that we've all had a look at and discussed, so that's to be published. As I say, there's a couple of, there's one minor change that the play area, the artwork isn't going to be in Latitude, it's going to be in Bursledon, venue still to be confirmed. And then secondly, to note, we had some information last week from Hamble Parish Council, who made a couple of suggestions which for the members to consider. They asked if we could have a reference towards the CEMEX development. They also asked about antisocial behaviour, to clarify if it's just the foreshore, but as we know as members, there are other bits of ASB, so I would probably suggest we might want to keep it as is for that one. And then finally, Amanda pointed out that Mount Pleasant reference may just highlight a bit more around a pavilion and the play area in the skate park. But hopefully you had a chance to look at the key priorities. And then obviously the final appendix was just the good news that's happened in the last couple of months. So just a couple of quick things to highlight. The replacement fence has been put on the Hamble Rail Trail, was requested and funded by this group. Equally, we've now added a site found the gateway and striking posts at Hound Corner Countryside site. And the Dragon's Teeth on Providence Hill have now been installed. And also to note some more fundraising done by the volunteers at the Mercury Hub. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ross. Members? Steve?
I'll propose the recommendations as set out, Chair, and praise the work that's gone into forming the local area plan. Really gives an indication of how much work goes on in the local area, and how much money is still being spent here, despite all the issues with the economy, etc. So, continue the good work, and I support it wholeheartedly, and will recommend approval.
Just on the local area plan though, Steve, is that to accept the changes? Because at the moment we've got, like Ross said, the Latitude, and we want to just make that Bursledon. On the ASB, we don't want to mention the foreshore because it is in the area, so I think that needs to be parishes rather than foreshore. I have a bit of an issue with putting CEMEX on there because it's not really in our plan. I think the reason they wanted it on the plan was for developers' contributions, should that go ahead. But I'm not actually happy about having it on the plan when it's something that we're fighting against. So I think it would be a bit too much to put something on here so that it's in our plan for developers' contributions if it's something that we're fighting so hard against to keep out.
I've thought about this ever since we first discussed it, and I don't think we want to weaken our position. We've refused this and objected to this all the way down the line from 2006 in its various forms, and we continue to do that. I feel, yes, we do need to watch it, but we don't want to commit by putting it in the plan on the basis that if it's approved, this will happen, because it will happen anyway. If it's approved, that situation will come to bear. And maybe it's one that would have to go in maybe for next year. But just because it's not in the plan doesn't mean to say that we would lose it. We wouldn't. But we don't want to give the impression that we would be happy with the wording showing us that, indicating that we would support it if it was approved. And, not this year.
I think that's, you know, like Ross said, this is a corporate project.
Yeah.
It's not something that this LAC is dealing with. So
Yeah.
to actually put it in our plan, I think would be quite detrimental.
Yeah.
And people might think that we're actually supporting it rather than the complete opposite.
Yeah, it worries me that if it was seen that we had it in the plan that if this is approved, this is what we spend money on or whatever, that leaves us open, and it would give the impression that actually we're thinking ahead. All we're thinking about at the moment is objecting to anything down there in the way of gravel extraction, etc. And we need to keep the focus on that.
I think the last thing on the recommendations from the parish were about the pavilion and things. But I think we've got enough in there on our developers' contributions. And as we know, those are earmarked for certain projects anyway. So I don't feel that we need to mention those specifically either. They are in another report, our CIP report things, so I don't think they need to be here. Okay, so you've proposed with those amendments as written out. Do I have Jane?
Can I just add something to that? The Spring Clean project, I fully support because it is much wider than just cleaning up. Mentally, for the people who have things taken away, they're often elderly and incapable to take big items somewhere else, you know, to the tip or something. And so they haven't got the money. I mean, it's, you know, even worse now. And so this clears their head and of all the worry as well. So thank you very much. And I truly support that. I think it's a great thing for mental health. Thank you. And I second it. Second, Steve.
Okay, it's been proposed and second. Anybody else want to say anything else? Oh, Helen. Okay. I think there is some great work on here. The Spring project is absolutely fantastic, and I think it's good that we're actually doing it in the 3 parishes. It worked very well here last year, and it's something that can go forward. It also stops a lot of fly tipping, which ends up costing the council an awful lot of money, so that's brilliant. And the Dragon's Teeth as well. That was real quick work on that. That was lots of vans parking. They'd kick the Dragon's Teeth out and parking, making it extremely dangerous for people to access Providence Hill. It's a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit there, so it was very dangerous to take that safety issue on board and deal with it very quickly. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour of accepting? That's everyone. So I'm getting a bit lost because Becky's in the middle. I'm waiting for Becky's hand to go up, but she's not. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 7, which is presentation guidelines. Alex, are you doing that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So how proposals are determined. A proposal must be considered on planning grounds. The committee must determine proposals in line with development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise. The development plan comprises of Eastleigh Local Plan adopted April 2022, Hampshire Minerals and Waste Plan 2013. Other material considerations. Relevant government policy including the National Planning Policy Framework 2021 and its presumption in favour of sustainable development. Planning Listed Buildings and Conservation Areas Act 1990, para 72. Special attention shall be paid to desirability of preserving or enhancing the character of or appearance of that area. Supplementary planning documents and council strategies. Other material considerations. Planning history, previous applications or decisions, appeal decisions, site-specific matters, highway matters, residential amenity, visual amenity, ecology, drainage, trees, consultee and third-party comments, precedents, current case law, non-planning issues, matters covered by other laws or legislation, example, building regulations, alcohol licence, environmental permits, etc. Devalued property or loss of private view, breach of covenant, moral, racial or religious views or personal views about the character of applicants, civil matters, example, boundary disputes. Decision-making. Decisions made contrary to the recommendation must be explained and minuted with clear reasons given for the decision. Option to defer to seek amendments or further information. Committee must indicate what these are. Option to add further controls on use and details required if reasonable in planning terms.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I should have said this is only Alex's second committee, so there may be a few nerves, but I've tried to tell her that we're all quite nice here. So don't be nervous, Alex. But we'll move on to 4 Station Road.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Application at 4 Station Road, Netley Abbey, is for the addition of dormer window, alterations to the fenestration and new porch. This includes replacement of guttering, window to the first floor at the rear, replacing UPVC windows to wooden sash windows and roof lights to the existing rear extension. Updates. Following the completion of the committee report, several points have been raised and require further clarification. Planning permission is not required for the conversion of attic room to a bedroom without a dormer window in a property located within a conservation area. Building regulation approval is required for the conversion, associated works, and an application has been lodged and is being assessed by the Building Control Service. The planning application can be determined without building regulations approval, which is covered by separate legislation to the Planning Act and not a material planning consideration. The committee report accompanying existing floor plans and heritage significance statement, page 18, identify the attic room as the 3rd bedroom. For clarification purposes, the attic room cannot be classed as a habitable bedroom at present. As such, the existing property should be described as a 2-bedroom property, and this should be noted in relation to paragraphs 3, 28 and 38 of the committee report. The increase in bedrooms from 2 to 3 does not materially affect the number of parking spaces required in accordance with the Council's adopted parking standards. The increase of bedrooms from 2 to 3 does not affect any other material planning consideration and planning policy in relation to the assessment of the planning application. There is an update to the wording of the condition 4 to be clearer that the bathroom window to the rear elevation is to be obscured. There has been another neighbour objection that has been received, highlighting points that have already been raised. The planning application site is located in Netley Abbey Conservation Area within a row of terraced houses to the southwest of Station Road. There is a block of flats to the northwestern end of the terrace. The houses are predominantly 2 stories with roof lights to the rear of the roof and a variety of porches to the front. The numbered location plan shows the existing dormer windows within close proximity of the application site along the street scene within Station Road. Dormer window 1 is of flat roof. Numbers 2 and 3 are of pitch roof dormer windows. Most notably, number 3 is the neighbouring property of the application. These photographs show the surrounding character of the area. The front of the terraced houses show the different style of porches from the highway. The rear of 4 Station Road, in which you can see the neighbouring dormer window. The dormer window is clearly visible from the roadside. The proposal is to create a larger living space within the loft with the addition of dormer window to the rear of the dwelling. The dormer window would have a pitch roof with materials to match the existing roof to reflect the neighbouring property's dormer. The pitch of the dormer would exceed the existing roof by a modest 200 millimetres. This would remain unseen at ground floor eye level when stood in front of the dwelling. The plans also show the proposed roof lights to the existing rear extension and the additional first floor window on the rear elevation. The floor plans to the second second floor show the enlargement of the loft room using the dormer window to accommodate the relocation of the stairs. The proposed porch would have a slight increase in size to widen the access using materials to match the existing, keeping the same pitch roof style. The guttering will be that of metal, and windows will be replaced with wooden painted sash windows, which is in line with the character area appraisals from the Netley Abbey Conservation Area, in keeping with the historic property. You can see a very minor amount of the rear dormer window as previously stated, and it would be unnoticeable when viewed from ground level. The addition of the bathroom window to the first floor will be obscured glazed by condition. The proposed development complies with the relevant policies and current local plan. The design, the scale of the works is appropriate for the property and will not harm the amenity of the neighbouring residents. There is no requirement for an additional parking space when increasing from a 2-bed to a 3-bed dwelling. It would not be overdevelopment of the site. The proposers would preserve the character and appearance of the conservation area. Therefore, my recommendation is permit the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Alex. Okay, I've got 4 people that have signalled to speak. I understand Jez's voice is going. Okay. Okay, so it's Claire that's going to speak on your behalf. Okay, Constitution normally gives 5 in objection and 5 minutes in support as well. Because there are 4 and there's only 1 application this evening, I'm going to allow you all 3 minutes each. But we will have the traffic light system on this evening. And if we can just keep to the points, try not to raise anything that the previous speaker has said, that will give you more time to actually get your points across. So Jez was first to speak. So Claire, do you want to come up to the front and speak on Jez's behalf? I know that you're down to speak as well. But Jez had something prepared, and I think you're going to read that out, and then... Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Some of this has been covered, but I'm going to read it as it is anyway, if that's okay. Okay, just to say thank you for the opportunity to comment on the planning application.
Sorry, Claire, can I ask for the mic to go up, or, yeah, either...
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the planning application. We live immediately next door to the proposed development and do not object to the general principle of creating a 3rd bedroom in a loft. However, we have suffered 2 years of noise nuisance from the work going on, often at antisocial times. It's been unbearable, actually. The work has included inserting lintels, steel beams in our party wall, knocking out a shared chimney breast, and replacing a wooden suspended floor, original floor, with concrete, which has significantly increased the level of noise we hear from next door. We're fearful that should this application be allowed, that we will suffer yet another 2 years of noise and disturbance, as he's doing much of the work himself. Our son, who has some very significant additional needs, used to feel his home was his safe base, and now often states he wants to move as he does not feel safe in his own home as a result of the situation we found ourselves in from our neighbours. Yet we are the ones who had to pay for our own party wall survey. That was not done properly because our neighbours did not serve a party wall notice, which was a statutory requirement. 3 other independent surveyors confirmed that. We've paid for it ourselves. That's wrong, and we wonder what else is wrong. We do know that our neighbours have fitted roof lights to the existing single-storey extension before permission has been granted, and that forms part of this application. But I think what we are talking about is the original Coast Guard station of Netley Abbey in 1873. I feel so proud to be living in such a special and historic cottage. This is our family home, and not property developers. We did extend our house in 2014 for modern living, but we would never have dreamt of taking it above the roof line. So fundamentally, the design of the proposed dormer is just wrong on such an important building. It's just too large, out of scale, and with the proportion of the roof. It's not sympathetic to the Victorian design of the building, its roof form or detailing. Allowing a dormer of this size at this height on a positive building in a conservation area sets a very dangerous precedent. If it is allowed to go ahead, I question what is the point of having a conservation area to protect historic buildings. The conservation officer, Tim Dyer, says that the design is the best you are going to get. But that option is only relevant at this scale. A smaller addition will allow for an improved design. He should be recommending this. The conservation area appraisal says that extensions to positive buildings must be very carefully designed and detailed. This is clearly not. It is the job of the conservation officer to make sure this happens and not accept the best of a poor design. I would like to also point out that regardless of any surveys, during the summer months we do get quite a lot of bat survey activity around the cottage at dusk and dawn. As already highlighted to the Council and the LAC members, we believe this particular planning application should be withdrawn or postponed until it is corrected. As it stands, we believe the descriptions and the numbers are wrong, and therefore the whole application is invalid. The problem as we see it is that number 4 Station Road was always a 2-bedroom room cottage. The estate agents described it in 2021 as 2 beds with a loft room. They are duty-bound to be accurate in their description of how the property by their professional bodies and also trading standards. I'm sure they would have loved to have sold it as a 3-bed because they would have been able to ask a higher price. It is not us saying it is a 2-bed. We viewed the house when it was on the market, and the loft room was accessed by a spiral staircase, and definitely not meeting Part B building regs requirements. For example, a protected escape stairway in the event of a fire. It had an apex ceiling and only part of it was higher than 2.2 metres, the minimum height as we understand it. We conclude that this was not a bedroom, and under the law of the land, any loft conversion in a conservation area requires planning permission. All we are asking is that things are being to be done properly. The law is very clear in Schedule 2, Part 1, Class B of the Town and Country Planning, General Permitted Development, England, Order 2015, the 2015 Order as amended. Permitted development rights do not apply to Article 2, in brackets 3, land, that is, land within a conservation area, per Part 1 of Schedule 1 of the 2015 Order. This property is within the Netley Abbey conservation area. The existing plans drawn up and submitted by the applicants do not reflect the actual existing situation accurately. I've highlighted where it is described as a bedroom, and the spiral staircase is not even shown. It is shown as a proper staircase in the wrong position. Therefore, Planning Department are making their recommendations on an incorrect representation. We also remain unaware whether Building Regs Part E, transference of sound, has been followed. If it has been done, then surely there should have been sound tests in our house. In our experience, building regulations often follow the approved plans. If improperly described as already a bedroom, it could allow building regs to be bypassed in this or any other application. There is also an issue concerning the height of the new dormer. It seems to be above the existing roof line. We don't think that's permissible. If Eastleigh Borough Council choose to ignore the law on this fundamental point, what else do they turn a blind eye to? How many loft rooms will be allowed to be described as bedroom without Part B being put in place? Look what happened in Grenfell. The sloppy behaviours trying to cut the corners that led to loss of life. Heaven forbid this happens here. We are so concerned about this. We think that this issue is so important that it might be looked at by both ombudsmen and professional bodies to which the both applicant's agent and council office officials may be members of. We have a citizen's duty to raise this for the many, not just the few. We would, however, like to place
Claire, can I just ask you to finish off, please?
We would, however, like to place our trust in this committee and respectfully ask for the committee to either refuse this application or, if possible, postpone it so that it can be looked at with a view to correcting its detail and numbers so as to uphold the law of the land. Rules are there for a reason. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have James Miles next. Sorry?
There was a handout that was given out during the presentation.
That's for us, and please don't interrupt the meeting. This is a working meeting that you're invited to. It's not to be interrupted. So please, James. No, that's for us to decide. So, please don't interrupt the meeting. Otherwise, I will stop it and, remove. Thank you. James, please.
Good evening, all. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm a local resident. I live just around the corner. The clear points to me are that roof line can be viewed from both coming down Station Road and from Victoria Road. If you look at the proposal, it can be seen from both sides, but I go back to, it's a nice clean roof line, it's a historical building and part of the 1816-1880 build, which is the conservation area. And I don't understand how you have a conservation area and that you're not conserving those historical pieces. Nobody likes change overall, but you can't hide that proposal as anything other than a massive, sorry, a wrong word, an extensive piece of work on the roof line. After that, what else comes? So the planning permission, as you heard from this lady here, that it was applied for as a two-bed, and with, I think on page 21 of the application, refers to it as a three-bed. And I don't think that's correct, and I don't know whether that's just a typo or whether that's deliberate. But there's something there, if you're making an application, then those sort of details have got to be correct. Off-road parking in that area is a nightmare. And on a Bible black night, when it's coming down in stair rods, are we really going to see that third bedroom occupier saying, well, I'll use the overflow car parking, which, by the way, as you know, is shrinking anyway. So I think that becomes an issue for those people who live there for a long time. So it's either a conservation area, in my opinion, or it's not. And I think to open that door, lots of folk can go through. And I know of a number of occasions where people have said they wanted to do just that. And Eastleigh, for example, not so long ago, couple on Station Road, just in that area, first-time buyers, absolutely strapped for cash, and the planning officer said, your bay window is incorrect, and by the way, you cannot put plastic windows in there. And so the first-time buyers had to take the whole thing down and rebuild it. Now, that's pretty strict, but if that's the sort of conservation we're holding up, then let's stick by it and not have rather large dormer windows. And my request is please match it as a conservation area. Thank you.
Very much, James. Maureen, please.
So, of course, being last in, most of what I wanted to say has been said. But I want to remind you, in the original planning documents that we as a parish council, this Hound Parish Council, was sent, there was a report from Tim Dyer, dated the 25th of July last year, when he says that 4 Station Road, which is also known as 4 Coast Guard cottages, are a row of 8, part of a row of 8 cottages, all of which are within the southeastern tip of the Netley Abbey Conservation Area. These cottages are part of a row which are listed as significant unlisted buildings that make an important contribution to the character because of their siting and or design. And it's a bit misleading talking about the front and the back of these cottages, because it depends. If you're coming down the road, the back is the front, and vice versa. Tim also goes on to say this proposed rear dormer, which has been altered since this report, I know, is in total conflict with the requirements of the above quoted planning laws, quite apart from looking dreadful in any context, and in this case would also set a precedent for the rest of the row, which would destroy the character of this area of the Netley Abbey Conservation Area. I spoke to Brenda Finlay, who runs the website Netley Abbey Matters, and she sent back to me to say that in the Netley Abbey Conservation Area document, number 4 Station Road is specifically mentioned in Appendix B, page 35, and shows what can be permitted and what can't. The blurb, her words, on page 29, paragraph 169 LB, talks about refusing planning permission for anything which detracts from the existing street building line and the rhythm of the street scene. This proposed second floor dormer, which is in the roof space, is in total conflict with the policies given in this conservation area document. And as I said before, while it's technically the rear of the building, it's still the first view you have when you're coming off Hamble Lane if you're coming to the country park, and people only see that view rather than the front view because they've already gone past the Prince Consort by the time they've turned the corner. It would have a domineering presence on the street scene, drawing the eye automatically to what looks like a shed in the roof space, to the detriment of the character of this site within the Netley Abbey Conservation Area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak in objection to this that hadn't actually signalled? No? Okay. I will ask Alex and Liz if there's anything they want to come back on. Probably Liz.
Thank you, Chair. Just with regard to the handout, it highlighted the staircases shown on the existing drawing, which is not shown as a spiral staircase, which was seen by the neighbours when they viewed the property before it was for sale. Just to confirm that from a planning point of view, you do not need planning permission to change your stairs internally. If you're a listed building, that's different, but if it's an unlisted property, even in a conservation area, you can change your stairs and the arrangement of your stairs without needing planning permission. You, excuse me, building regulations is obviously different and it's a separate matter, but from a planning permission, from a planning perspective, you wouldn't require planning permission, and therefore if the staircase is different on the plans to what was previously in the house, it's not a material planning consideration that would affect tonight's decision for the application. And then just one other thing I wanted to clarify, sorry, with regards to, there was reference to permitted development rights not applying in the conservation area. It's correct, Class B does say that you can't do alterations such as a dormer window without requiring planning permission, which is obviously why we've got the application in front of us. You can put roof lights in subject to meeting the minimum protrusion above the plane of the roof. So roof lights can be put in for any in any roof in a conservation area, but a dormer window can't. So that's correct, but there are two classes that relate here, and I think that was it, unless there was anything else you wanted clarification on.
Just Maureen mentioned the conservation policy as well.
Oh yes, sorry. So there's an Article 4 directive in Netley which sets out certain things that would ordinarily be permitted development, which the council has basically removed those rights from certain properties, and Station Road properties are some of those properties affected. It just means those works would require planning permission. But again, that's why you've got a planning application before you today. So it's correct, there are rights have been removed, but it means you need to apply for planning permission and the planning application is in. Doesn't mean to say it has to be refused. It just means a planning application has to be submitted. And then the very nature of the proposals and the merits of them are what's being considered tonight.
You want clarity or something?
Thank you, Chair. We've had reference made to some quite specific provisions of legal statutes. I wonder if our officers have any further comments to make or any reflections on the reference to the specific provisions, or whether you have any comment to make about the specific provisions that were made in the presentations from members of the public this evening.
Sorry, we were just discussing another. Could you repeat the very beginning, but with the provisions? Which provisions were you referring to, sorry?
Some of the speakers referred to specific provisions of the law, various statutes and statutory instruments. Do you want to modify or comment on those specific provisions or change your opinions of that you've presented to us this evening?
So the update before you this morning, at the beginning, that Alex read out, that clarifies the situation. So the reference made to in the plans that came in, it referred to it as a bedroom 3 in the roof space. From a planning perspective, because there's no dormer window in the plans as shown as the existing drawings, that work can be done to convert your loft space within the roofscape as it currently is without requiring planning permission. So that work would not require a planning application even in a conservation area, because you can install roof lights under your permitted development rights. So that is, that wasn't something that would need planning permission, so therefore we were content to accept it as shown. It's subsequently been drawn to our attention that they don't have building regulations, which is a separate matter, completely aside from planning. So the planning department wouldn't look at that when determining and considering how application and plans are being put before us. So the report was written on the basis that it was a 3-bedroom property, and it was staying as a 3-bedroom property, albeit the 3rd bedroom in the roof was being made larger, more usable by the inclusion of the dormer window. It was then subsequently drawn to our attention by neighbours that the building regulation situation hadn't been resolved. So we looked into that, spoke to our colleagues, and they confirmed that there's an application in, and they're currently assessing the works with the dormer window, but there was nothing prior to that in terms of converting that roof space into an actual bedroom. So it was there as a converted space, a loft space, but not couldn't be considered to be a bedroom. So as a result, the update, which we can put back on the screen if that helps, that Alex gave at the beginning of her presentation, that sets out that yes, it shouldn't be considered to be a bedroom currently, so therefore that would make it a 2-bedroom property. But the works as described in the application, they still remain the same. It doesn't need to be described as creating a 3rd bedroom necessarily, but it's because we're looking at the external appearance from the planning point of view and the external works. Then you have to look at whether there's any other issues that arise from it increasing from a 2-bed to a 3-bed property. Looking at the parking standards, they're the same for a 2-bed or 3-bed property, so the converting it and the works that are required to convert it into a bedroom don't then trigger the need for any change in parking standards, and there are no other planning policies that are linked to the number of bedrooms in a property. So we have corrected it in terms of the description as not being a 3-bedroom property currently, so describing it as a 2-bedroom, but there are no subsequent knock-on alterations to the recommendation as a result of that. So hopefully, we'll leave those up there because it was quite detailed, there's quite a lot of words on that slide, but hopefully that covers all of those points. So we are aware of the building regulations issues and party wall issues, but they're separate. They're not related to the planning application before you tonight, and they can't form part of your consideration. They are a separate matter that is dealt with by others.
Liz, is it a question for clarification, because we still have the supporters to speak as well?
I was going to ask a question for clarification. Is that okay? I just want to check something. In terms of the cladding of the dormer, which the Built Heritage consultant mentioned, have we confirmed whether or not that would be natural slate?
Yes, it will be match the existing roof.
Okay, so in support, we've got Sorrel Kill wanting to speak. If you'd like to come to the front, Sorrel, please.
Hello. Sorry, good evening. My name is Sorrel Keel, and I live at 4 Station Road, Netley Abbey. My husband and I bought this house in order to move closer to family and raise our children. We chose Netley because it's a place I adored as a child, visiting the water, the country park, and my grandparents who lived there. When we first viewed the property, it was unloved and did not live up to the high standards of the Coast Guard cottages. It had black painted lintels, an uncharacteristic porch on the front, and the general lack of upkeep meant the house was in need of care and attention. Inside the house wasn't much better. There were 2 leaks in the roof, a rotten rafter in the loft room, and an uninsulated concrete floor in the kitchen extension. The loft room itself had been converted to a bedroom that didn't adhere to adequate building control provisions. The house was a fixer-upper, and it was a challenge, but we knew that Netley was where we wanted to live, and this was to be our forever home. So the challenge was well within our capabilities. The dormer that we seek to put in place would be to turn the existing loft room into a more usable space, and building control approve of how we are planning to adapt the house to make it safe. The slate dormer and other changes, including the replacement porch, the new wooden sash windows, and replacement guttering, reflect our genuine passion to enhance and protect the Victorian charm and heritage of our home. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Okay, over to members. Oh, sorry, actually, Liz, was there anything you wanted to come back on at all? No, okay. Members. Liz?
So the first thing I would say is that it's really welcome that the fenestrations are going to be reinstated. That's really brilliant to see that. But I do have concerns about the dormer and the view, the site. I think that it's really important not to alter that, because it is, you know, we have our heritage is really important to us in Hamble and Netley, so I think it's very important that we preserve that as much as we possibly can. And so I do have concerns about that dormer window. I think I'm not entirely clear on what's being done to the porch, whether or not that changes the size of the porch, or whether it how does it?
Yes, it will be about around 30 millimetres to the right and slightly higher. But I think it's the door's going to be slightly larger as well. But it's very in keeping because it looks similar to the one to the left of the property.
So the door would change in width and height. Sorry,
the porch.
The porch, but not the actual door frame. No, okay. So I don't really have any objection to the porch, but I think that I do have concerns about the dormer, and for that reason I'm not going to be able to say that I agree to this proposal.
Okay, we'll carry on with debate. Do you want to turn your mic? Anybody else? I was looking at this, reading through the reports, and I do have a bit of an issue with it. I was hoping that there'd be something here that kind of would have led me part of the way. I think for me, and Maureen read out exactly what I'd seen, Tim Dyer, you know, we've worked really hard for our conservation policies, both in Netley, Hamble and Bursledon. We put a lot of work into that to make sure that we protected our area. And, you know, for Tim to say that putting a dormer in over a year ago would set a precedent, and that this particular row of cottages played a significant part in our conservation area, to actually now saying it's the best you're going to get, I don't think that's good enough. We've put hours and hours into our conservation area, and you know it is in the eye of the beholder. Sometimes you'll get something that you think absolutely not, because it's modern, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to have modern. It's just, you know, something in our conservation area to protect and enhance it. I don't think this protects or enhances it at all. And it's been mentioned already. You're coming down Station Road and you do see that row of houses, and I think it's just going to be up there as a big eyesore as you're coming down. So I don't think I can support this application either this evening. Steve?
Chair, I've had real study of this, and I've been down there and had a look, and I knew it before, but I went down there and had another look. And I've been reading this report, trying to decide which way to go on this. What concerns me really is that there's very little detail about the conservation area policy on this. The conservation area policy, from what is being said tonight, is that a planning application is required. That doesn't necessarily mean that it should be refused. Is that correct? Yep. So it's not a case of you can't have anything in a conservation area, but you have to put in a planning application for it. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Also, again, for clarification, my understanding is that Eastleigh Borough Council's parking guidelines are based on national guidelines. Is that correct? We don't make them up.
No, I don't know. They were done some time ago, but there's a lot of background information and evidence that it puts together, that's put together to decide the number of parking spaces per
There is national guidance, though,
Yes,
and we pretty well follow that, don't
yeah,
we?
they're pretty standard.
Okay. What I don't like about this application, I haven't got a problem with the front, because actually when you go down there, you'll see that there's more than one porch, and like the house next door has got a frontage in the form of an extension that must have been done a long time ago. And there's 2 porches further down, and they're ridge porches. Very difficult to really argue the porch changes, because a ridge wouldn't look right there. It actually blends in with the property next door. My issue is the rear. The problem is, my nan and granddad used to live in a 2-bedroom cottage, very similar to this, very narrow in a row of terraces. And over the years, they were extended into 2-floor, and now I think a couple of them are 3-story. They don't live in this borough, they live in another borough. But nevertheless, they were in a conservation area. And I know the council at that time had a lot of problems with what was acceptable in that conservation area. And this is very similar. It's a row of cottages that are in a conservation area. They have a certain charm. And what I see is a large bulk in the form of a dormer that's taking up the whole roof. And that is going to have an impact on the local area. People are going to be able to see it from coming down Station Hill. And I'm also concerned that in order to get the height, you've actually got to lift. I know it's only 200 mil, but even so, it still sets a precedent for raising part of the roof. You're not really serving the conservation area by approving that. In the end, I'm going to actually support the refusal, because I just feel that, having looked at it really, really closely, I just think the dormer's just too big, too bulky, too cumbersome on that property as it is. Difficult one, but I have to come down on the side of refusal, basically on the size, design, its location in the conservation area, and whether that would allow it to be in keeping.
Is that a proposal for refusal? Because we haven't had a proposal.
I thought that was a...
No, Liz had just said that she wouldn't support this application.
Okay, I will propose it as a refusal then, based on what I've said, using the reasons.
Okay. Okay, do we have a seconder for refusal? Is that a second to refuse? Jane, do you want to speak now?
Thank you, Chair. The porch, I'm with Liz. The porch, I don't think there's an issue with. I think it will actually enhance it, you know? But I'm the same. It's the size of the dormer, the dominance of it. It changes the whole character of the building, or it will do. You know, having looked at quite a few dormers over the years, and I think it's too much of a change. So I'm really sorry, but I agree refusal.
I don't think any of us have a problem with the front, and it's one of the reasons I said about members going down to have another look at it, because the porches on the front are slightly different in their shapes and sizes. I don't think anybody has a problem with the porch, but it is this dormer. And, you know, you don't have to have a dormer to have a bedroom in the attic, but it is the size of it. If it was smaller, then perhaps it would be different. Okay, any more debate before I ask Liz to come back? Adam.
Thank you, Chair. We've had an excellent report from our officers and a very helpful presentation. I'm struggling to see how we can reject this application in terms of the planning regime. The planning regime is a very narrow vehicle with which to take a decision, and we've had a good exposition of how we must undertake that decision-making process. And my belief is that this meets with all the parameters that are required to approve a decision, and so I agree with the decision of our officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Liz, do you want to come back?
I just wanted to check if you are going to be voting on refusal, that we've got the points that you wanted to refuse on. So I've got size and design of the dormer window and its impact on the conservation area.
And the street scene.
Street scene, okay.
You put your mic on, please.
Do you agree with your comment that you've just made, that if the dormer was made smaller, then it would be harder to refuse it?
Yeah, I think it's a shame that it's all come in the one application, because I think we would be saying yes to the porch and trying to negotiate the dormer down, because I don't think anybody has a problem. But it just reminded me, seeing some of these pictures a bit further up Station Road, where we had the dormers put in on that block of 5 houses. You know, to all intents and purposes, on paper, it looked fine. Once it was built, it was, oh my goodness, what have we done? So, you know, the roof does make a huge difference. So, yeah, it changes it all.
I just wondered whether there is obviously the option to defer if you wanted to seek amendments to the dormer.
Would the applicant be looking at reducing the size of the dormer?
You've not voted on the recommendations before you. I'm confused.
We've not voted yet, but we're saying that we could defer this and negotiate a smaller dormer. So I'm asking whether the applicant would actually look to making the dormer smaller.
I understand that you have the power to defer. The officer's recommendation is a recommendation for approval.
Yep.
The debate obviously is centred on the issues, and that recommendation is before you, is the recommendation that needs to be voted on before you move to the recommendation to refuse it.
No, I've asked you a question. I mean, we'll just go straight to refuse if you don't want us to defer. Okay. So obviously the referral for this is off the table, because the applicant doesn't want to discuss that. So it's been proposed and seconded to refuse. All those in favour of refusing. So that's 4. Those against, and that's 2. So that has been refused, that application. So thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the planning appeals, just for noting, we have Myrtle Cottage. There has been appeals lodged for the council's refuse for the sunken side extension and the listed consent, and the appeal dismissed at Fairport House. Again, these were all delegated decisions, but we'll wait and see what happens on the ones that have been lodged. So thank you very much, everybody. That is the close of the meeting. Good night.